Good afternoon. I am Pete, also known as RiskForrewards over on Twitter, known as @RiskForrewards. You can find me over there. I've got around 17,200 followers, so we're getting a bit of a big subscribership now. We're going to look at today the Aintree Grand National. If you're not already subscribed, if you click the link at the bottom, then it will give you all the links to my content as soon as they come out, because I don't always put them on Twitter. And if any likes or any comments, much appreciated. I try to reply to it. Well, I do reply to all of them, and I also read all of them. So we're going to go for the Aintree Grand National. This is just my early thoughts. Obviously, we haven't got final fields, but because of the fact that I was writing the Aintree blog yesterday, and I've done most of the writing for the Grand National itself, including a lot of the trends, I just thought I'd run you through a couple of my bets that I think could go close. One at 50 to 1, one at 25 to 1, and just a few who I think have got no chance in the Grand National, to put it quite simply. So you can frame this video ready for in a couple of weeks' time. I am going to keep it short. Unlike me, I am going to have to scroll through the horses, because normally, obviously, I just speak straight out, but I am going to have to flick through them because obviously there's no way I'm going to remember 40 horses and a little bit of information on each of them. So without any further ado, let's start having a quick look. Right, so straight away, the biggest indicator, there are loads of stats. So just to clarify, my Aintree blog will be out on Wednesday, covering at least the Thursday, possibly the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'll update the selections. Aintree isn't like Cheltenham. I only have one selection so far for Aintree, and that's Correct Rambler at 33 to 1 for the Grand National, which many people have seen on my Twitter. But bar that, I don't have any anti-post. So I will be playing 24 to 48 hours before, just like the rest, just like everyone else. And there's no rush to dive and back all your selections for Saturday on Thursday night, because you could get better prices, more competition. There's plenty of different opportunities, so there is no rush. So we're all in the same boat. We'll all win or lose together. But anyway, right. So my blog will go into a lot more depth, and it has got a lot more statistics, just so that obviously when you're making your own selections, you can go through and you can make your own judging choice. But these are just a few really simple ones. So simple stats positives, trained in Ireland, no surprise there. No more than 2 seasons over fences. So normally a novice season and then a second season, and then £5 plus well in. So obviously what it means by that is the weights were published probably about a month ago now. So any horses that have ran at, say, places like Cheltenham and who've put in good performances, they could be right. So if the handicapper has put you on a mark of, say, 100 for the Grand National, and you've ran since he's published those weights and you ran really well, you could be on 110. So that then means that if you were to run in a handicap outside of the Grand National, you'd have to run off that £10 higher mark. But because he's already published the weights, he can't touch that. It applies for the same if going down. So when they say £5 well in, it just means you've ran well since the national weights were applied. But some horses, you won't know they're well in until you see here and they win by half the field. Ran over hurdles early in the season. That's just a sneaky way of doing it. It's not been seen quite so much recently. Contested the cross-country chase. Obviously, Tiger Rolls won twice by doing that. Owners in the colours of Trevor Hemmings, Gigginstown, and JP McManus. So no surprises there. The big colours that we see often. Priced at 25 to 1. Or bigger, and that's a vital stat. I'll just read you some of the. Let me just find the 10 of the 11 last winners have been double figure prices. The exception was Tiger Roll, and 6 of the 11 have been at 25 to 1 or bigger. So if there was ever a race to not be afraid to take a chance, this is it. So right, onto the simple stats negative, aged over 10. So that might sound quite strange, to like, why would a horse be over 10 in a Grand National? But it's quite common that you do get horses of that age, and some will be, say, 11, 12, and they might. This is obviously for a win purpose. There's nothing to say you can't run into second or third, and you could be a massive price as a 10-year-old, like a 50 to 1 shot. Considered to be a 2 mile 4 furlong specialist. So as I'll mention on some of these stats, some horses have been campaigned at a lot shorter, and you might think, oh, okay, he's campaigned them shorter, not use too much energy, and then one big race a year. But the issue with that is this is a 4 mile 4 furlong race, so you're going almost double the distance. So it's one thing doing your marathon prep like most people do, where you run, say, 10 miles, then 15 miles, and say run 15 miles twice rather than going the whole 26 miles. But 2 mile 4s is a massively big difference. Another negative, if they've fallen or unseated in their rider more than twice in their career, which is obviously just apparent for this sort of test because it is a test of the jumping. A winner of the Haydock National Trial or the Sky Bet Trace, trained by Nicky Henderson. I mean, that's a fairly obvious one because he's not had much luck in this race whatsoever. I don't think he's ever won it. And not had at least 3 to 7 runs in this season. So it's all very well coming here as a prep and keeping yourself fresh. But it's key that you've had at least 3 to 7 runs in order to gain the correct fitness for this sort of test. Sorry, just watching the... Go on, son. Go on, son. Go on, son. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, we'll take it each way. That was the one selection I put up today, Flight Plan. Just came into second. Dear my friend, unlucky. 7 to 1 second. Can't really complain at that. Anyway, right, we'll get back to it. Just shows I can do the flat two, guys. Right. Anyway, place in national bets, 6 to 4 place money. Oh, I'll take that. Anyway, right, back to the national bets. Right, so I'm going to put up selections today. It's your choice if you want to back them now, or if you want to wait, or you just ignore me anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that there are often really good offers, like really, really good offers, and they normally start about midday on the Friday evening. The one that I remember in recent years, and they did it last year, is Bet365. Bet365 give you an offer where they'll give you a portion of your money back when you place your bet. And I'm not an affiliate in any sort of way, but I'm just saying there is no rush to put these bets. Don't get me wrong, if you're backing one at like say 33s and you're worried that it might come into say 16s or 20s, then take your pick. But I'm telling you, there'll be a lot of big enhanced each way places and offers close to the day. Right then, the other thing I'd like to just say is at the end of the day, it does not matter if you know everything about horse racing or you know nothing about horse racing. The Grand National is the one opportunity of the year where you have your chance to go your own way. And what I mean by that is like anything can happen. As I've just read out with those prices, you get 100 to 1 winners, 150 to 1 winners. Like the Irish Grand National winner last year, Lord Lariat, 150 to 1. Was it Lord Lariat? I think it was Laurel Lariat. Was that Free Will in Denton? Basically, you get big price winners winning these sort of races because they're hard for the bookmakers to judge. But at the same time, you might get a 5 to 1 winner. So my advice is pick. I normally go for around 5 horses because there's 40 runners, and obviously you normally get 10 each way places. And then you might say, oh, I want to back a few of what he's just said or whatever. But the reason I'm putting the content out is so that you can have a quick read through and be like, okay, yeah, I like that. I like that. I don't agree with them there. I dislike that. It's just so you can make your own decision. I'm not here to tell you who's going to win the Grand National because you could have a brilliant record on it, but it doesn't mean you're going to win it. There's 40 horses. And also, there's nothing against getting your money through the places instead. So you could have a 20 to 1 place and it could pay better than a shorter priced winner. And the same, obviously, a 50 to 1 place pays out at 10 to 1 winner. So it's just all looking at different angles. Right then, so we'll start with the favourite and obviously my anti-post selection and a horse I'm definitely not going to put you off now. I know he's about 6 or 7 to 1. Will he get bigger on the day? Potentially. And that's Correct Rambler. He literally has absolutely everything in his favour. This is one of those stop the mic, end the thing. If you said to me one bet, then it would be Correct Rambler. Just because he races off £1 lower than what Noble Yates did last year. So you know it's a good racing weight. The stats are in his favour, him being off 10.5, 146. That again is the perfect racing weight for nine out of the last 11 have been in that weight category. Obviously, he's took his second Ultimate Chase, showing that he's in just as good a health as he was last year. And to put that into context, if he was to run, Noble Yates last year ran to an RPR of 160 and won this off 147. So Correct Rambler won the Ultima by achieving an RPR of 159 and runs off 146 here. So obviously they're completely different tracks, races, everything, but in the simplest form possible, they have ran the exact same numbers on those two occasions. Obviously him in the Ultima 4 weeks ago, and Noble Yates when winning this race last year. So if Correct Rambler hadn't ran there and he brought that form to the Aintree Grand National, he would have literally ran on top of Noble Yates this year. So basically what I'm saying is that run would have either won him the National if it was the same as last year or got him very, very close. So it's hard. He's obviously £10 well in now, and that's what I was explaining about the stats at the start. The handicapper has put him up £10 for that victory in the Ultima. So this is his year. This is his chance. He doesn't carry that £10 extra because the weights were already published, um, and so he will not get a better chance. Obviously, there's only been one English trainer or Scottish, one United Kingdom trainer in the last 6 years who's took this. The rest have all been Irish, and that was Lucinda Russell with One for Arthur, who is obviously the trainer of Corrick Rambler. So she knows how to do it. He ran in the Coral Gold Cup, which has got great stats for this race. And in all fairness, there is literally the way he is a smuggle ride, so he'll be ridden from the back and he'll be picking them off and going through the thing. But he features prominently at the same time, and he is becoming more prominent. He was a lot more prominent this year in the Ultimate than he was last year, despite the fact that he was given a very sneaky ride and just getting up on the line. Um, the one concern, but it's a massive concern, is how much that race has taken out of him. You would argue he didn't have a very hard race until the last two fences because he was smuggled the whole way around. He wasn't given a hard time. But once he obviously went into battle, he was well and truly rousted out to get up on the line, and he was worthy for more than what the winning distance was. But he just put his head up and he was hanging a bit. So, but at the end of the day, you come here normally and there'll be a strong favourite and they've got everything in their favour, and this is exactly what he's got. And on the one side, you wouldn't be coming here as confident if you hadn't seen him do that in the Ultima. But if he brought that run from the Ultima straight to here, he more than likely, unless something out of the ordinary happens, he more than likely would have won this race. So the issue is now they have got a bigger break to Aintree, so he will have a 4 to 5 weeks. And obviously Tiger Roll has done it, albeit in the cross country chase where he would have had a much easier race. So it's definitely doable, but obviously you will not know how much that's taken out of him. Like, he could get through 4 or 5 fences and then he could pull up, or it might just be that he doesn't have that extra 2 or 3% of energy at the end of the race. But at the same time, 5 weeks is not a short time. It was a brilliant performance, but it wasn't a performance out of the ordinary. It was a performance that he's done before. So obviously the yard know what they're doing, and providing they get him here, he's going to get very similar conditions, probably good or good to soft ground, and he's going to be a massive player. So, yeah, nothing's put him off. However, and I have got a question on this one. So, where is my question on this one? Where is it? Apologies. Take 2 seconds. I've got people commenting on that selection. Right, so Mateus VR says, surely Noble Yates and any second half, no chance off top weight. Despite obviously them being clear lovers of the track and trip. And you know what? I absolutely 100% agree with him, because I get the love for Noble Yates, and I get that obviously he's enhanced his claims and not many horses will have done it with the Gold Cup and stuff. But when you're trying to knock down 40 horses, I think he's one of the easiest to just completely knock off. If he wins, I'll just say, okay, it is what it is. You're not getting 50 to 1, you're getting like 8 to 1. And if I go back to the weight, so this is just this century, so it probably goes back a lot further, but just over the last 22 years, no horse has won carried 11-10 or more. So that's a huge negative for Noble Yates, Any Second Now, and Galvin. So Noble Yates has done himself no negatives by obviously running to Gold Cup level and all of that sort of thing, and he's looked like a stayer, but there's been no plot about him whatsoever. This is clearly not an afterthought. They always were going to go here after the Gold Cup, but the Gold Cup was the aim. But he's coming here off £19 higher, and bearing in mind he won by, I think, maybe 2 lengths last year from Any Second Now. It's very, very difficult to see. Oh no, I've lost my page. It's very difficult to see how he's going to run to that same sort of, well, he's not run to that same sort of level. He's got to run to £19 higher. So me personally, yeah, I do think he's an easy leave. Just lost my page. Apologies. Right, scroll down. I've done these in price order if you're wondering why they're probably a bit random. So next up is Delta Work. Delta Work is very interesting this year, in my opinion. Obviously a solid third last year when he had quite a mixed prep going in. He had a fairly hard race at Cheltenham, but he's done once again a very similar prep, well, basically identical prep as last year. We know he's a Gold Cup horse. Difference is for Delta Work is that he's actually coming here off £1 lower, despite finishing third and running to the same level of form, if not better. So I think any rain is going to help his chances. And the fact of, I'd imagine it might even be Keith Donoghue might well get the ride again. And I think that'll be brilliant for him. And I'm not against Delta this year. I was against him last year, and I could see him as an each way player. I think he's currently priced about what 10 to 1, something like that. Yeah, he's 10 to 1 at the moment. So yeah, I could see him, and if the rain comes, then he'll definitely be a bigger player. He might find one or two better handicapped, especially on the faster ground. And again, you don't know how much it's took out of him. And obviously, the negative for Delta work is that he is a 10-year-old. Obviously, it's not a negative to beat 10. I think most of the winners are 8 to 10, but this is basically his last shot before he falls in the negative category. Galileo de Mesnil. So Galileo de Mesnil was very interesting. Obviously, second season novice chaser, so perfect for the stats. Irish, stayer, third in the Irish National last year. The biggest concern with him, though, is one, he was third in the Irish National last year, so it didn't show that he was obviously incredibly well handicapped. But handicap mark aside, he's a very strong stayer, as we saw at Cheltenham. He's a good traveller, travels behind the bridle, jumps well, stays well. But that was an absolute grueling finish in the National Hunt Chase. You saw when Mile of Mission hit the front three out and he was still backpedaling. Galileo de Mesnil, Patrick Mullins had just realised, I am way too far back. And luckily Mile of Mission fell, but Mile of Mission fell because he'd kicked for home and he was tiring, and the other two were chasing in vain. And obviously, Mile of Mission was legless when he fell, and I think he wouldn't have won anyway, in my opinion. But then, obviously, for Galileo de Mesnil to pick Chemical Energy up and to go past him, like, it's one thing recovering from, say, a 2 mile hard race, like in the Champion Chase or something, but to recover from a 3 mile, 6 furlong slog in 5 weeks is a massive ask. And to put that obviously in context, I'm not saying that this will definitely happen, but you look at the way that race was ran compared to the way the Ultima was ran, and he was literally, they were finishing absolutely legless. So obviously he has his chance, but he's one for me because he's not exactly a big price. He's one for me that I will probably end up skipping over. Mr. Incredible falls in the sneaky category, in the fact that, well, he's actually below the weight that's normally positive for this race, which means he's slightly below the class level. But at the same time, he's a horse that he seems to. I've got two theories about him. One, he's been plotted out beautifully for this race, and this is his cup of tea, especially as it's only his fourth start for Willie Mullins. But at the same time, he tends to stay on when the race is over. So he stayed on late in the Welsh National, in the Warwick Handicap. He stayed on late in the Warwick Handicap behind the Welsh National winner. I Will Do It, and then he was exactly the same in the Kim Muir. Like, many would say that if he'd jumped the last better, then he would have won, but unfortunately he didn't. So at the end of the day, he's got his chance, but is he one you can fully trust? He's one for me where he sits in the maybe category right now. Any second now fits exact same category as a Noble Yates. He's the take your price, I just can't have him. He's got too much weight, 11-12, and what did he come up? He came up runner-up at 159, so he's £8 higher. So he's well in with the winner of last year's race. He's £11 lower than the winner of last year's race for, I think it was about a length or 2 lengths. But he's now 11 years old, which is a negative on the age. He's carrying the maximum weight, which is a negative of 0 for 22, and that's just counting this season. So in my opinion, it would be a monumental performance for him to be able to win. So he's knocked off the list. La Milos. So this horse is very, very interesting. They had him and Ashdown Lad currently entered, and they've decided to take Ashdown Lad out and go to the Topham and just run with this horse as their one bullet for the race. The interesting thing with him is the fact that Dan Skelton has won so many handicaps this year by basically just complete domination and out-training everyone else. And my hope here is that he could well be doing the same again by being very well in. The concern would be last time out. Last time out, I think he traded about 1 to 100 before being caught on the line. I think I'm freezing here. I hope this is still going to record as I hope. Apologies, just checking. Yeah, hopefully I'm not freezing in my speech, but I don't know. Yeah, so he was collared when he was well clear, and that's the concern, is the fact that, is he going to stay on as well as others when the push comes to shove? Good ground will probably help him, and the fact that the Skeltons have left this one horse for a yard that literally have won. I think at one stage they won all like 5 in a row of the Saturday handicaps, and and obviously Paul Nicholls does well in those, but that is no mean feat. That is an incredible achievement. So they clearly think this horse has got it all, and he won a really really good Coral Gold Cup. That's a great, the old Hennessy. That's a brilliant race to win as a handicap, and he only comes up here off £6 higher. So the question, you'd hope that he just got caught for fitness on that day, but obviously it does question his stamina. Longhouse Poet, I came here thinking perhaps to give him a chance, but I looked at the prices. He was only 16 to 1. He was beaten 34 lengths last year when sixth. He comes here off the same mark, but he doesn't seem to have that turn of gear or that push button when everyone else. He travels and jumps well, but when you need to go to another level on, he doesn't seem to have that. Like a Tiger Roll, where he travelled with everyone else, but then he found that extra gear. He doesn't seem to have that. And obviously, even though he's got years more experience, he doesn't seem to. I find it hard to see how he can go any further than what he already got last year, and that was only a sixth. Our Power is very, very interesting, in my opinion. He's been campaigned very sparingly, but whether it's by design or not, the 2 races he's taken, he's won both of them, and they were big field handicaps. Obviously, the problem is with that is he goes up £11, but that is only £11 for 2 races, and he won both of them by staying on. So as in he was sat in say second or third, and he's come past and he's got up on the line. So it says that he stays, but obviously this is a step up and trip further than what he's already achieved. That those sort of races. Sorry, just to go back, a lot of these horses that I'm talking about, when I'm talking about their form, they're generally over 3 miles. They haven't gone as far as the 3 mile four. The 4 mile four that we're going to see here. So stamina is not guaranteed, but he does get in off a featherweight, and it'll be a big price for you to be rolling with. The only concern would be is the fact that he was beaten well and truly by Kite Rambler in last year's Ultima, when definitely outstayed because he was travelling well at the hill, and then he was just left in his wake. Right, Vanillier. So Vanillier is an intriguing rival in the fact that obviously he was seen as he had an electric performance in the Albert Bartlett in 2021. He looked like the next stayer on the block. He was going to have serious potential, and he was going to be the next monster in the staying division. The problem is he just hasn't gone on from there. He does not jump well. He doesn't jump with any fluency, and he's obviously well handicapped because of the fact that he doesn't jump very well. And he had first time cheek pieces on, and he did run a lot better, and he jumped and he travelled well, and arguably he wasn't far off getting up against Kenboy. But you are taking the risk that one, that the cheek pieces work again and they keep him straight and narrow, and two, in the fact that he's going to hold his jumping together. For me, it wouldn't be one I'd want to take a risk on, but I wouldn't surprise me if the money came for him, because he's definitely a summer horse who would like the better ground, the competition, and he could well go close at a big price. But it's just whether you actually want to take a risk. Like, what price is he? He's only 20 to 1. See, I'd want him a lot bigger than that. But then again, this is a week out, so he could be 33s by the time we get closer. Right, so on to my next one that is very interesting. Obviously, Cork Rambler is very interesting for me, and I wouldn't put anyone off that, but this one as well. And this was one of my Kim Miura interesting horses for last year, and that's Ain't That a Shame. Um, he looked very, very well handicapped going into that race last year, but he was just an absolute no-show. Despite the money that came from him, he was sent off 6 to 1 from an opening price of tens. He dropped to a mark of 137, and he looked brilliant in the Munster National. And the thing with this horse that's really important is that he races prominent, or up in the front. He was running very well, and he just got caught on the line. He went up £7 for the Paddy Power Chase, where he travelled, jumped well, and he was leading, and then an awkward jump at the last, and then Rachel Blackmore switched her whip, hit him, and then he hung over to the side, but then he stayed on gamely, and I think that will be a blessing in disguise. Despite not getting the win there, he came fourth. One, you don't get put up in the weights, and two, I think Blackmore learnt that day that you can only hit the horse with one side of she can only use one hand for the whip with this horse because he reacts violently by hanging if you hit it on the other side. So she'll know that coming, that you don't want to be learning that at Aintree, put it this way, when you're trying to stay all the way to the line. So um, he races off only £2 higher than when I thought he was well handicapped last year in the Kim Muir. And since then, he's been ploying all his best efforts in staying handicap chases. So he's only going to be gaining experience. And I think he comes here with an absolutely rock solid chance. And if you've watched the Ferry House preview, this is where I kept coming to Panda Boy because they've got form together. So if you want to be really crazy, you could always go for a each way double with the both of them. And something that's obviously incredibly significant was Henry de Bromhead. Henry de Bromhead's had one of his had a very, very quiet season, and due to his really quiet season, I don't know how this is going to come out because it keeps freezing for some reason, which is very strange. Henry de Bromhead's had a very quiet season by his standards, which is obviously explanatory under the circumstances, the unfortunate circumstances. But he just showed at Cheltenham he knows exactly how to get every horse perfect. He had 3 winners there, and all his horses were absolutely prime. Like the likes of Envoy Allen and Honeysuckle running an absolute seasonal best, and Envoy Allen the best for a long time. So I would not be surprised if anything that he runs at the Aintree Festival will be once again absolute peak. And so if this horse was running to this level when he wasn't at peak, then he could well be even better, with plenty to come. I love the fact that he races prominently or from the front, so he's going to be in the first few, which will keep him out of trouble. And he's 25-1 currently, so I think he's an easy pick onto the shortlist for me. Galvin. Problem is with Galvin is one, he's got the significantly high weight that I mentioned, carrying £1 higher than what, as I said, 0 for 22 this season, this year, this century. And the other negative is the fact that he was beaten by Delta Work, yet Delta Work gets to carry £6 less. So good ground will help him, but I just think this might have been a season too late. He looked last year like a really strong stayer, and the Grand National will be right up his street. But since then, it just hasn't been the case. So whilst I'm not writing him off completely, I also think that he could end up with Davy Russell on the saddle. And at the moment, the way Davey's talking, like Davey was saying, like it's like, oh, it'd be really nice, like a happy moment for me to go out with Aintree like a winner. Like that is not Davy Russell. Like Davy Russell is like bloodthirsty, like I want to do everything I can to win and this and this and like that proper like hunger and drive. And I just think like he's the Davy Russell that we're used to seeing. Like this to me, in football terms, for those that don't watch a lot of horse racing, is like Cristiano Ronaldo. In the fact that he's just, you're expecting him to do the things that he's been doing all his career, but he's actually past that stage now, and he's not carrying to that same sort of level. So I don't think Davy's a positive booking. The big dog, very likable type, but he's not. This has clearly not just been the sole plan. He's been gaining weight by winning and coming second in multiple races. So he's not exactly obviously well handicapped. Carefully Selected is a crazy horse because a horse would fit the negative box normally, being an 11-year-old, but he's only had 7 chase starts. But it's the fact that he had 3 years off in the middle. He has form with Dunboyne. Right, I'm going to speed it up a little bit just because I've got no idea whether the video feed's working just because it keeps stuttering on my end. And I'm just going to pick out the big ones. So Carefully Selected, very unexposed, but the weight would be potentially an issue. We've got Cocoa Beach has been subject to plenty of money this week, and did plenty too much last year when finishing 8th. Just turn my hotspot on. Yeah, so Cocoa Beach was subject to plenty of money this week, but runs off £9 higher here. Obviously, one last time out with a career best with a £5 claimer on board. So maybe comes here in, well, definitely comes here in career best form. But the thing is, on a £5 higher mark for finishing eighth last year, beating 66 lengths. So it's hard to see with all of that. Like, obviously, despite the fact the horse is clearly improving, like that's a big ask to come here off not only £5 higher, but also to make up 66 lengths on this sort of field. Right, down to so one that I do think's interesting at a price is Durasso. So Durasso's form over 2 mile 4 furlongs or further is 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 4. The fourth most recently in a grade two behind Janadil, which was clearly a prep, I think, for this. And obviously we'll need a career best, just like many of these. But only 9 months ago was finishing second to Hewick in the Galway Plate, achieving 159 RPR. There's only been one run at 3 miles in the Kerry National, and that was when beaten by the well handicapped Bustleton. But the yard were kicking up a massive stink about not being able to run Bustleton here. So maybe they've obviously used Durasso as their because they couldn't run Bustleton. They've thought let's target Durasso instead. And the fact that he's done the whole hurdling route where he's been plodding around in hurdle races says that maybe they want to just keep his handicap mark. Uh, and there's plenty of positives as a dark horse. He's 5 for 13 over fences, very unexposed at the staying trips, and obviously in JP McManus colours, Joseph O'Brien loves to train a handicap winner, and if he can improve for this step up in trip, then he's got to be a big player. Right, so I'm just going to scroll down. Obviously, I could go through plenty more of these, but unfortunately, with my internet today, I'm not really sure what's going on. So, in short, I just want to put up a few that I think I'm going to just go run through. And the simplest, Corrit Rambler has to be on the list. Noble Yates, not for me at all. Delta Work has his chances. Galet de Mesnil, not sure because of how much Cheltenham took out of him. Mr. Incredible's fits in the maybe category. Any Second Now, not for me. Longhouse Poet, not for me. Lamilos will depend on price. Our Power is a sneaky one. Vanillier is a roll of the dice. If you're getting 50 to 1, I understand taking that chance on his jumping, but no. Ain't That a Shame? 25 to 1, definitely a bet for me. Capodanno, I'm not sure is going to go here. I think he'll end up running in the Group 1 at Aintree. Galvin, I'm not a massive fan of the way Davy rides currently, and also is carrying too big a weight. The big dog, admirable, but it'd be a shock to me if he was to win. Carefully selected, an 11-year-old is against him, but it's very interesting the fact that he's obviously he's only having his eighth start here, but I just think not sure on him to be honest. Cocoa Beach, I think, has got plenty to do to make up that 33 lengths off a £5 higher mark, despite the market money. I'll skip a few of these because I don't think they're going to run. And then we come down, Mr. Coffee, Nicky Henderson's poor record, and the horse doesn't like finishing better than second. The Shunters look fairly regressive, but it is Emmett Mullins, so write him off at your peril. He hasn't shown anything since his brilliant Cheltenham win, then his great run at Aintree, Punchestown, and I think it was in the Galway Plate. Durasso, 66 to 1, so I think that's a sneaky one if he ends up running here. Obviously, at the end of the day, you're looking for things that are a little bit left field. Sam Brown ran a career best last season when beating Sham Blue in a handicap. And he looked a monster on that day, but the problem is he's been put up, I think he's £19 higher for that mark. So in summary, there's plenty more to go in the next 7 days, especially where we're going to get the weather, we'll get the final fields, we'll get the jockey bookings, and we'll learn plenty more. But currently, obviously, I'm not going to say the ones that I've said are not for me. They're definitely not on my list. But any of the others, anything else could go. I normally look, like I said, 4 to 5 horses. But if you're backing horses at 66 to 1 or 100 to 1, I'm more than happy to just keep chucking a couple of those in. But if I was to give you three at the moment that I'll definitely be backing, well, Durasso, if he runs, obviously I don't know if he's going to run. Would there be a rush to back him? I wouldn't have thought so because at 66 to 1, it'll probably be maybe 100 to 1 at some point, or after declarations, it'll probably be similar sort of price, and you get more places each way. Ain't that a shame? Currently 25 to 1. Wouldn't put you off backing him now, but again, the same rules apply. And obviously, I'm on Correct Rambler at 33 to 1. But I think even if you're taking 7 to 1 now, or if he drifts on the day or whatever, like I personally, I just want to have him on side. Even if it's just that if you have your total bet allowance for the race is £8 and you have £1 on him just to win you your money back, I just think he's got a great chance as a favourite. But obviously, he's a favourite for a reason. So, apologies for the internet. I've got no idea how this will end up coming out. I've got no idea why the internet's gone like that. I mean, it's a bank holiday, but I don't understand why that would cause an issue. So I am Risk for Rewards, and you can find me on Twitter at Risk for Rewards, and you'll find my Ferry House selections and all my Grand National selections. The Aintree blog will go up on Wednesday evening for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, exactly the same as Cheltenham. I'll cover as much as I can. I'll try to condense it down a bit because obviously Cheltenham was very lengthy, but it had 2 years worth of form. I'll try to put the more relevant stuff in, and obviously I'll have my selections and my verdicts. And then obviously I'll have a full Grand National preview for the one race itself. That will come out separately, which will have all of my selections, which, as I said, will probably have around 5 selections. And I don't try to keep it all at the short end of the market. It'll be like one in the 10 to 1 or lower, one, say, 10 to 20 to 1, and then three that are, say, 20 to 1, 30 to 1, 50 to 1, 100 to 1, etc. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to just go all in there, even if you think the strongest ones are at the market. It's one of those that if you don't get the winner, you don't get the winner, and that's why I don't like to even put my selections on there, because I think it's a great race for anyone. Like your grandma could come in and just be like, "I'll pick that one," and I've had it before where I've studied the race very hard, and then like my mum's gone and said, "Oh, I'd like this one," and then she's back the winner. So I just think it's important you give it a go yourself. But my selections will be on there. There's going to be a pretty big announcement from the old Risk for Rewards on either the Sunday, possibly the Sunday after the Grand National, just with something that we're looking to do extra. Well, I'm looking to do extra for the anti-post season. It's not going to affect my content on YouTube, won't affect my content on Twitter. That is going nowhere, will be free, and there's no issue whatsoever. But for a select few, and it will be restricted numbers. There will be something that's going to be happening, but I'm not. Don't ask me any details. Don't send me any messages, please, because it'll all be revealed when it gets revealed. But anyway, I hope you have a great bank holiday weekend, and I will be back on Wednesday with some videos on YouTube for the Grand National Festival for each day, and I also will put all of my content out on Twitter. So thank you very much, and goodbye.